Welcome to a brand new edition of St. Louis Presents. And ladies and gentlemen, feast your eyes on this face because we may someday soon be losing him to Hollywood.
Well,
right, Steve?
Is that just because I told you that earlier? Hey, enough about me. I'll get back to that in just a second, though. But I do want to give you, Debbie, before we get started here, an update on the St. Louis International Film Festival.
Yes.
Which was held as 24th annual. It was held November 5th through 15th, as you know. And at the end of that, well, let me first say they broke all kinds of records. They filmed something like 447 films, not films, screened, 447 films, and the total attendance topped 25,000 people.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
They do a great job with that festival.
They broke records. And
But the most important part of the festival, without a doubt, was...
Well, it had something to do with me. But I want to, you know, they give a lot of awards at the end of the festival. They give awards for all different things, and there's one award called the Mid-Rosh award, and there's some organization called Mid-Rosh St. Louis. I don't know a lot about them, but they give an award to St. Louis related films that tell stories of redemption and hope, and they have meetings around town through the year about topical things, get people together and to promote conversation. So anyway, a long time ago there was an intern here by the name of Effie De Silva who went on to New York, and last year, year before last, she came back and filmed a movie that she wrote and directed, her first film here in St. Louis. It was entered in the St. Louis International Film Festival, and it won the Mid-Rosh Award, so we want to congratulate Effie De Silva, and yes, I do have a small part in it.
Oh, and what that is called?
Four-Way Stop.
Four-Way Stop.
And I saw it at the Tivoli, and it was really good.
Excellent.
And although it might not make film, but there's something exciting going on in Jennings.
Absolutely. We have some really inspiring guests today. You are really going to enjoy today's program, including the superintendent of the Jennings School District. They have been making incredible strides and will tell you exactly what they're doing that other school districts may want to follow suit. And two foster moms who have found a way to give back and help other foster families and our homeless population.
You've heard of Lucas Place, that old fancy address.
Absolutely.
And days gone by in St. Louis. We're going to meet the author of The Gilded Table, Recipes and Table History from the Campbell House. And it's an interesting insight in another way of life.
And that is all coming up next on this edition of St. Louis Presents. Welcome back. Joining us right now is food historian and author Suzanne Corbett.
And Suzanne is here to tell us more about her latest book, The Gilded Table, Recipes and Table History from the Campbell House. And the Campbell House, what a house and what a family.
Oh my gosh, and what a table. The Campbells had a beautiful dinner parties. They were the social invitation to be able to come and dine at that house. And many people did, like President Grant, Sherman, even Red Cloud, the Chief Red Cloud has been known to make an appearance at the house.
Now, this is an incredibly beautiful book. Now, I know a lot of people who don't cook but collect cookbooks, so if that describes you, ladies and gentlemen, you want this because there's just gorgeous pictures, but also the recipes in it are things that would have been prepared 100 some years ago at the Campbell House?
Indeed. In fact, the recipes, there's 178, of which almost 150 are Virginia's recipes, Virginia Campbell's, who was Robert's wife, and she hand wrote all of these recipes out. And when the house was being probated, they found the cookbook and found all of these recipes. So the recipes in the book have been documented, researched back as far as we could take them, and then updated.
I guess we should say for people who don't know, the Campbell House, I think, was the first house on Lucas Place, which I think was the first really fancy address in St. Louis back in the old days.
I don't believe it was the first house, but it's the only surviving house left, and it's one of the most beautifully restored townhouses of its kind in the country. And what makes it so special is most everything in the house is original.
And it's a museum, and so people should check that out if they haven't.
One of
Go
the
ahead.
interesting things too, I'm looking at the table setting that we have here. Now, most Americans get confused already with which, if they go to a nice restaurant, what am I supposed to use?
This is like your house at lunch, isn't it, Debbie?
Yeah.
Well, in the day, you could have had 24 pieces of flatware at a table
Wow.
setting. Now, the Campbells, depending on how many courses you would have, will dictate how many different pieces of flatware you would have, because you would have a piece, you'd have an utensil to go with a particular dish. It was considered just ill-bred if you would pick up a piece of food.
Right.
Can we
The
talk
only
about a
thing you
couple-
could do is pick up a piece of bread
Can we
in
talk about a
pieces.
couple of these?
Salt
Do you
cellar.
remember before the salt shaker, Debbie?
Oh, so you had your own. Now, what is this for?
Now, this is towards the end of the Gilded Age, just before the First World War. That's an iced teaspoon with a straw in the...
Oh, interesting.
This must be for, I don't know, serving muffins?
Well, it would be great for serving our Washington cake, which was
Yeah.
one of Virginia's favorite recipes, which has become a signature of the house, along with the Roman punch that we're going to be making here. Would
Oh,
you like to make a little Roman punch?
Yes, let's do
You
it.
couldn't have a dinner without Roman
Be
punch.
something like this.
Indeed.
Yes.
Oh, that smells fantastic.
Debbie, would you like
Just,
to
just put your,
nibble?
just put your
I'm
little
gonna
finger
make-
up and you'd be good.
Okay.
I'm handling the champagne
Oh.
first, Steve.
But you have to open it.
Oh, all right, I'll do
now,
that.
Roman punch was the slushy of its day. It was served usually in the middle of the meal to help cleanse the palate, but more often it was served with the,
Whoa.
that's good, to be able to make room for all the other courses, because it was thought that if you had a little bit of citrus in the middle of the meal, that it would create a hole in your stomach so you could eat another 6 or 7 courses after you've already eaten 7 or 8.
All right, so
And
what do we
this-
do first?
This is a Missouri champagne, I want to point out, too.
Yes, it is.
So I guess it would officially be a sparkling wine.
Well, they actually
Yes.
would have called it champagne in its day, and the Campbells did drink a good number of Missouri wines.
So how can I help?
So how can you help? Well, first we're going to be doing this the 20th century way,
Oh.
which is not the 21st century way, but this was originally a cup of lemon juice, a little bit of orange juice, citrus peel, a little bit of egg white mixed
all be
together.
fresh squeezed back then.
They'd all be all
Yeah.
fresh squeezed, and then your wine added. Theron Ware, who was the curator back in the 1980s and 90s when I became associated with the house, did the recipe. Oh yeah, you can put it
Go
in.
ahead.
Did
How
the
much?
recipe with as much as you can put in there.
Steve
we're
just
gonna
wants
add-
to know if he can drink all the extra.
I was going to
I
say, if there's
know.
any left, can I take it home?
Okay, that's good
sorry.
enough. That's good enough. That's good
I'm a
enough.
little excited there.
Okay, now after you've put this together, like I said, this was very easy and simple to do. Just your 12-ounce can of lemonade, a quarter can of your orange concentrate, a little bit of zest. We'll let you put in some
That's quite
zest.
a zester. Do I just go like this?
Just go like that. That's a microplane. Now, of course, you'd have a box grater. Just tap it off. There you go. You just add just a little bit of zest, and then you would freeze this.
How are we going to try
Oh,
it?
freeze it. Oh.
Could we use these?
Well, we have a
Here.
freezer across the hall.
We could have
so,
a freezer across the
I
hall.
just
Maybe
wanted to
by the end
try
of the
it.
show.
Stir it a little bit. Okay.
Now that
and
looks
then taste
delicious.
it.
This is quality control. This is important.
This was
to do.
also served at the Southern Hotel's banquets, and the Southern Hotel was considered the
try that?
ritziest place in town and one of the ritziest places in the country, and it was owned by Robert Campbell. So we've used
That's
some of
delicious.
the Gilded Age recipes from those banquets, along with Virginia's recipe, to create the recipes from the book.
Now, before we let you go, this book is out right now. Great for the holidays, great recipes. Do you find that there's a lot more interest in the Victorian age these days because, I don't know, Downton Abbey and all of these shows that really kind of take us back to the days when things were He's eating. We'll
I
continue.
got a piece for you.
Oh, it's obviously ill-bred.
Yeah.
My
There you go.
goodness.
The Campbells would never have me
Thank
for
you.
dinner.
No,
would
no, they wouldn't have ever had you for dinner. Well, you would have gone down on the social ranking a little bit because your manners had a lot to do with things.
All right, now that my mouth is full. So, yes, more interest in the Victorian age?
I think that they're very interested in the Victorian age all the way up through the Edwardian age, thanks to Downton Abbey, because it's a time that everything was beautiful and gorgeous, and all of these beautiful dishes and the flatware. I mean, we had gorgeous flatware, and we've been reduced to a spork. However, if the Campbells were around, they'd look at that spork and say, oh, that's my ice cream fork.
Oh, I'm sure they would.
I'm glad you brought up Downton Abbey because Lynn Rosetta Casper, I work at St. Louis Public Radio, and she has a show, The Splendid Table, and she said your book is sort of like Downton Abbey, right?
Well, she was very kind.
Suzanne Corbett is the author. This is the book, The Gilded Table, and you should check it out. Make some recipes for the holidays. When we come back, we'll talk to Two ladies who have really made a difference helping other people make a difference. Stay with us.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.
G-morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did? Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Welcome back. Joining me now are two women dedicated to aiding children in the foster care and homeless community through their organization, STL Nursery Closet. Please welcome Monique Jackson and Leslie Stewart. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Now, what I love about the St. Louis community is people like yourselves who see a need and just go about fulfilling it. And so STL Nursery Closet does what exactly? If you could, in a nutshell, Monique, tell our viewers what you do.
STL Nursery Closet serves local foster families and homeless families. So when a foster child comes into care, we provide clothes, diapers, cribs, whatever they may need. The foster family can come to us and get the items that they need free. With the homeless, we go out every weekend and we provide clothes, personal hygiene kits, food, you name it, we give it to them. It's all free of charge for families to come. We also provide other, resources, like if they need jobs or something like that, we can refer them to places where they can go and try to get a job.
Now, Leslie, I think probably something a lot of people don't think about is when you're a foster parent and you get a call of, we need to place a child with you right away, and say it's a 6-year-old, you're like, okay, great. You have nothing for a 6-year-old, right?
Right. I mean, we could have an hour's notice, 24 hours. It just depends. So foster parents will call us and say, we have a new placement, a 5-year-old girl. This is the size. We don't have a toddler bed or a twin bed, anything. So we kind of scramble and try to get everything from all of our locations and deliver it to them free of charge. So as a foster parent, it's very helpful.
Now, both of you are foster parents, is that correct?
Yes.
I know that foster parents do get a certain amount of money, but I'm sure that is never enough to cover all the needs. So do you think it's a very common thing for most foster parents that they're shelling out a lot of money to clothe and feed the foster children that they're caring for?
Sure. Yes. My first foster placement, I didn't know about any kind of resources. So we did go out and spend everything for cribs and all of that stuff. And it is a hefty expense, especially when you have 5 hours notice. So, so it is very helpful.
So I imagine you have to really rely on the generosity of the community. What kind of ways have you found to raise money? Do you have events coming up?
We do. We have music trivia coming up in January 23rd, and all of the funds raised will help us to get a location, a central location for all of our donations. Right now it's in 3-4 different locations around the city, but that will help us to provide a space and also purchase new items.
So how long has the organization been around?
We just started this April of last year, 2014. And what prompted me to start, because I would get a lot of calls from caseworkers, you know, asking, hey, do you have a crib, or do you have clothes for this child? And so, you know, it just made me say, hey, well, let's get this going and get it started to help other families across St. Louis. So that's how we got started.
It's a fantastic idea. Now, when it comes to what you were talking about, going out each weekend and giving clothes and toiletry items, et cetera, to the homeless, how do you choose? Do you choose particular areas? Do you work with people who are on the street or in shelters?
We work with the people that's on the street. So we go down to 14th and Olive, right across from the library downtown. And we just set up tables down there and bring our stuff in. They come and we just, you know, let them pick through what they need to get. So we come right down on the streets where they're at.
Now, I've actually seen that in action before and had no idea what was going on.
Yep, so that's what we're doing.
Now I know. Okay, so for people who would like to donate, I imagine you're always looking for clothes. Most people who have kids, those kids grow out of it so fast you never know what to do with them. What's the best way for them to find out? Can they just drop clothes off? Would you prefer cash? What's the best way?
We do also take cash donations as well as clothing donations. They can go on stlnurserycloset.com, and there's information on there how to donate, and we're also on Facebook as well, STL Nursery Closet.
All right. So I hope you have a great event with the trivia, and I imagine as the organization becomes better known and you have more and more people in the foster care society knowing about you, that'll hopefully help you to get a lot more donations and trading too. Hey, remember that crib? I need. Well, thank you so much for doing what you do, and let's get some more information, if we could, right there on the screen about the music trivia fundraiser that's coming up in January, and also the information stlnurserycloset.com to get more information, or hopefully if you would like to be generous and donate just in time for the holidays. Ladies, thank you so much, and keep up the great work. And I know Steve Potter has some headlines for us, and he is going to take it away.
Thank you, Debbie. A reminder for property owners in the city of St. Louis. Tax bills were sent out in early November, and the deadline for payment is December the 31st. Payments can be made in person at one of 4 satellite bank locations listed on the back of your statement, or at the Collector of Revenue Office in City Hall, room 109. You may also make payments via phone by calling 1-800-2-PAY-TAX, or you can do it online at stlouiscollector.com. And please note that credit and debit card payments are not accepted at the banks. Mizzou head coach, football coach Gary Pinkel has announced his plans to retire at the end of the 2015 season. Pinkel was diagnosed with lymphoma in May. While the diagnosis and desire to spend more time with his family led to his decision, Pinkel emphasizes that he is not doing poorly. He's been the Mizzou head coach since November 30th of 2000. There are talks of keeping Pinkel involved with Mizzou athletics after his retirement. The annual 100 Neediest Cases campaign is now underway. Over 12,000 cases were submitted this year. 100 stories were selected by volunteers to be profiled in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch to raise awareness and encourage donations to help the thousands of families in need this year. The campaign also received hundreds of entries of artwork from local high school and college artists. You'll be able to view the 40 pieces selected along with the 100 stories. If you'd like to adopt a selected case or donate to the general fund, visit 100neediestcases.org. And now back to Debbie. What have you got?
Thanks, Steve. STL TV's Tim Lampley recently hosted Empowering the Community, a special town hall edition of The Issues. Community leaders took to the stage to address several questions and topics, including those from the studio audience made up of concerned citizens. They'll be tackling topics ranging from homelessness to unemployment to the stigmas placed on ex-convicts and the dangers our children face on the streets. It certainly promises to be an enlightening 30 minutes that we hope you'll tune in for, and you can find out more information on our website, stltv.net. Well, improving the lives of youth is something our next guest is very passionate about. She received the Educational Leadership Award in this year's Urban League Salute to Women in Excellence.
And that's just one of the many accolades that she received for her work. The Hope House is the most recent project of the Jennings School Superintendent, and it promises to make a huge difference in students' lives there. Please welcome Dr. Tiffany Anderson. Dr. Anderson, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I have to say, may I just jump in, that I was so interested in this whole concept because it didn't even occur to me that there was such a need in certain school districts with kids homeless kids. How serious is that?
Absolutely. Missouri has over 20,000 homeless children in the state of Missouri. So in Jennings alone, we only have about 3,000 students, generally between 2,500 and 3,000. Out of that, about 200 roughly every year are homeless. So it's a significant problem. In Jennings, we have 100% free lunch students. So a significant high poverty population, but out of that, a lot of kids that don't have a place to lay their head at night.
So Jennings has done something that I don't, you're more in tune with other superintendents across the country, I'm sure, but to me this was something very unique, that the Jennings School District has actually opened up basically a shelter for some of the homeless students who literally have nowhere to go.
We have, and there is another district that has something similar that we went and studied. Maplewood Richmond Heights has a place called Joe's Place. Our place is a little different than that, but we studied the only place we really could find. It is unique. It's not something that school districts normally jump and do, but we see the need to make sure that we, as a school system, interrupt this cycle of poverty. I mean, we really have this opportunity to change a community, and so that's what our work is all about. So because we have so many kids that are homeless, we decided to take one of the buildings that we already own, a home, and we restored it, and over the course of 30 days, and it's being open for children who are homeless as well as foster children.
And Dr. Anderson, how is that going to work? How many students can stay there, and can they just stay there a certain amount of time, or how are you going to run it?
Well, approximately the home can approximately hold about 10 people, but we're starting off slow, so we do have a bit of a waiting list. 2 of the students will be students who are foster care placements. So they're therapeutic students, so they've been through some traumatic experiences, and they will be placed there. Our foster couple is a therapeutic foster couple, so that's 2 of the students. The remaining students, right now we have 2 that will be placed as early as next week, and potentially 3. Again, we do have a waiting list beyond that. But these are young people who actually, in this case, they're seniors, they have good grades, and they have, one's been homeless for over a year, another one for 6 months. It's really a scary thought. And to think that they still show up. One of the students takes college level classes. All they need is a running start. And if as a community we can do that for them, oh my gosh, just think of how we change not only their lives, but our lives in St. Louis.
Well, I'm sure you probably find it frustrating as well when people look at from afar, they'll look at a struggling school district and they usually focus on, well, the teachers, it's the teachers, and they really don't take a step back and take a look at what are these students going through. If a student has nowhere to sleep and there's no food in their stomach, or they're going through some sort of traumatic situation, the best teacher in the world is going to struggle to address the needs of that child.
Absolutely. We believe in serving the whole child. We know that if you do not have food in your stomach, if you aren't ready to learn, it's really hard to learn. And in fact, you won't. Jennings, again, 100% free lunch. And here's just a little data that kind of backs up what we're doing. 3 years ago, we were almost unaccredited. We had about 56%, 56, 57% of the state standards that were met. The next year, we had over 60. The next year, 78. You need 70 to be accredited. This year, we have 81%. We have a 92% four-year graduation rate. 100% of our kids were placed in college or in jobs at the end of last year.
Wow.
We are committed to make sure that poverty is not an excuse for failure. Poverty is just a challenge. But if we help our kids get beyond that, we've given them a running start and ultimately close the economic gap that exists.
So the hope house is for kids that, because of things going on in their home lives or personal lives, don't have a place to go, may be homeless, or maybe it's a dysfunctional home. Who knows what it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have, sometimes parents are deceased, sometimes incarcerated, sometimes just the lights are off and the parents have a bad situation. It's not good for the kids to stay there.
But what's interesting about it, Debbie, I don't know if you know this, it's not like they're not going to be supervised. There's a neat story about, it's a lady and her son that are going to, I guess, be the the parent of the house.
You know, and actually the foster couple has changed. The secretary, we did have a secretary that was going to retire just to take this on. She's in grad school and is not able to really fix her schedule accordingly. So the foster care placement, the Missouri Baptist, who's our partner in all this, they have another couple. They were getting married in a few months. They got married yesterday. They've been foster caring for about 10 or 15 years, and they are phenomenal. So they are preparing to move in actually at the end of this week, so that we can get our kids in as soon as possible.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with the success at Jennings, but going from 56% to 81% in, what did you say, 3 years?
3 years.
That's pretty phenomenal. You, I hope, are getting a lot of national attention too. People trying to figure out, wow, how did the Jennings School District do that?
We are, and you know, we're telling our story in ways that lets people know that, you know, the Hope House is called Hope House because it really restores hope. It says that everybody can do this. This is really replicable. Think about the big cities and all of the empty buildings that are not being used that could be repurposed for something really positive. And so for us, we just need the community to kind of galvanize and assist us in ways that they can, donating, visiting the Hope House, any way that they can contribute, we are excited to have.
And Dr. Anderson, a few moments ago, we saw some photographs on the screen there. I think some were you, sort of fixing the house up. So it looks like there's a real effort to make this place feel like a home. It's not just a boarding house for kids with nowhere to go, but you're trying to create sort of a home atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the home was a 1920s priest rectory. What better place to call a Hope House? And so we actually decorated it as if it were our own home. And they'll have dinner in the evening at a certain time with their family. We're really kind of teaching the family structure. You know, you asked how long the kids can stay. We track our kids through college. I literally have a counselor that tracks them not only when they leave high school, but through college. We can guarantee that we can place them in a job. We can ensure they're successful. So these kids will stay until they finish high school. We'll place them in college or a job, and then we'll receive our next set of students that come in. And so it really feels like a home. We asked one of the kids in their interview, what will help you be successful? She said parents. You know, so it just breaks your heart, but it doesn't have to break your heart. You can do something about it.
And it'll be great too in a few years when some of those success stories who graduated from college can come back and talk to the kids and show them what can be accomplished. When you talk about getting the community behind you, what kind of things are you needing, or what kind of ways can people in the community help to keep this success going?
Well, and a couple of things. One, they can just go to our website, JenningsK12.org. That's one space to go, and they'll see a list of needs. They'll see a Donate Now button if they just want to donate financially. We have a gala on April the 1st. The funds will be going to the Hope House and the scholarships. And then things like just toiletries and items that the STL Nursery mentioned. I'm so glad to have that connection that you had on the show. So just really, and then canned goods. You know, today is our food pantry. We serve 8,000 pounds of food a month. Wow. And so we have a huge need for food. So Hope House, if people want to donate food, canned goods, we're open for that.
Well, fantastic. Dr. Anderson, thank you for sharing that success story with us. I hope it's an inspiration for all of the other districts and all of the folks in the community for ways that they can actually exact real change.
I think it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed this episode of St. Louis Presents.
And we'd like to thank all of our guests today, and we thank you at home for watching. Come back and see us again.
We'll see you next time on STL TV.